Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtikhe. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions, text number 11 onwards. Tasva tasvat sita svasrishtasu sahasra parivatsaram tena narayano nama yadava purushotbhava. That Supreme Person is not impersonal and therefore is distinctively a Nara or a person. Therefore, the transcendental water created from the Supreme Nara is known as Nar. So, Nar is another word for water. And because he lies down on that water, he is known as Narayan. Narayan means one who lies down on Nar or water. Text 12. Dravyam karm cha kalascha svabhavo jiva cha yadanugrihatah santi na santi yadupekshaya. One should definitely know that all material ingredients, activities, time and modes and the living entities were meant to enjoy them all exist by his mercy only. And as soon as he does not care for them, everything becomes non-existent. So everything that exists in the material world that we can see, that we can enjoy, it exists because of his mercy. It says in the verse, Yad Anugrihat. Anugrihat is my mercy only. And he when does not care, it doesn't, of course, in the verse it says Yad Upeksha, when when he neglects it, then everything becomes non-existent. The living entities are the enjoyers of the material ingredients, time, modes, etc., because they want to lord it over the material nature. The Lord is a supreme enjoyer, and the living entities are meant to assist the Lord in his enjoyment, and thus participate in the transcendental enjoyment of everyone. The Lord is a supreme enjoyer, and the living entities are meant to assist the Lord in his enjoyment, and thus participate in the transcendental enjoyment of everyone. So, living entity is a duty, is a constitutional position of all of us to assist the Lord in his enjoyment and also participate in the transcendental enjoyment of everyone. Means the position of a servant. But that's where we make the mistake. We want to be the enjoyers, actually. The enjoyer and the enjoyed both participate in enjoyment, but deluded by illusory energy, the living entity wants to become the enjoyer like the Lord, although they are not meant for such enjoyment. So, enjoyer and the enjoyed means the Supreme Lord and the living entities both enjoy. It's not like only the Lord enjoys, but there's difference in enjoyment. The Lord enjoys because the living entities want to serve him, and the living entities enjoy in their service. But when we want to become like Lord, when we want to become the enjoyer like the Lord, that's where the problem happens. The Jivas, the living entities, are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as the Lord's superior energy or para prakriti, and so also it is mentioned in the Vishnu Puran. Therefore, the living entities are never the Purushas or the factual enjoyers. So we are the Prakriti, nature, not the Purusha or the enjoyer. As such, the spirit of enjoyment by the living entity in the material world is false. In the spiritual world, the living entities are pure in nature, and therefore they are associates in the enjoyment of the Supreme Lord. In the material world, the spirit of enjoyment of the living entities, by dint of their own actions, karma, gradually fades by the laws of nature. And thus the illusory energy dictates in the ears of the conditioned souls that they should become one with the Lord. So in the material world, what happens? Everything is controlled by time and uh, by the nature, the supreme nature of the Lord, the laws of nature. So anything that we enjoy, it's first of all, it's little and it is temporary. So everything diminishes with time. So the illusory energy, then Maya, dictates in the ears of the living entity. Okay, why don't you become one with the Lord? Then you will enjoy forever because the Lord enjoys forever. And this is becoming one with the Lord means that is a Mayavad philosophy. Thinking I'm Lord. We all are God. This is the last snare of the illusory energy. This is the last snare means snare means uh, pash or one, by which it captures the living entity. Once one gets over this one, then means he's beyond the um, foundations of Maya. When the last illusion is also cleared off by the mercy of the Lord, the living entity again becomes reinstated in its original position and thus becomes actually liberated. For this attainment of liberation from the material clutches, the Lord creates the material world, maintains it for some time, 1000 years of its measurement, as stated in the previous verse, and then again annihilates it by his will. The living entities are therefore completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. When all their so-called enjoyments by scientific improvements are crushed into dust when the Lord desires. So all our scientific, technological improvements, technological inventions that we have, whether smartphone or this or that, it will be crushed into dust when the Lord desires. We think we are enjoying this technology, this, that new, this thing new, that thing new. Where is the enjoyment? And this is very important to understand that the last snare of Maya is when she whispers into the ears of the living entities, telling them, "You are God." And Mayavad philosophy is not just what Shankaracharya did. Of course, that is also Mayavad philosophy. But another aspect of Mayavad philosophy, or or us becoming one with the Lord, is whenever we think I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, separate from the Lord. When we enjoy service, serving the Lord, serving his devotees, serving his energy, that is okay. But when I think I am the doer, I am the controller, even in the service, we get this mood. Then it's a problem. So we have to be very careful. Text 13. Eko nanatvam anvichan yogatalpa samutpa viryam hiranmayam devo mayaya vyasrijatrika. The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue through external energy, out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone. So this is how this universes are created. In the Bhagavad Gita, the creation and annihilation of the material world are stated as follows. At the end of each millennium, the creative forces, namely the material nature and the living entities who struggled in the material nature, all merge together into the transcendental body of the Lord. And again, when the Lord desires to manifest them, all of them are again displayed by the Lord. So the material nature living entities who struggle in the material nature, they all merge into the transcendental body of the Lord at the end of millennia. Therefore, the material nature is working under the control of the Lord, all of them under the agency of material nature and under the control of the Lord, and thus repeatedly created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. As such, before the creation or manifestation of the material cosmic world, the Lord exists as total energy, Maha-Samasti, and thus desiring himself to be diffused in many, he expands himself further into multi-total energy. From the multi-total energy, he further expands himself into individuals in three dimensions, namely Adhyatmic, Adidevik, and Adibhautik, as explained before, VST. As such, the whole creation and the creative energies are non-different and different simultaneously. Because everything is an emanation from him, the Maha-Vishnu or Maha-Samasti, nothing of the cosmic energies is different from him. But all such expanded energies have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, and therefore they are simultaneously different from the Lord. The living entities are also similar energy, marginal potency of the Lord, and thus they are simultaneously one and different from him. So actually, here Parikshit Maharaj had asked the question of, please explain to me the different energies of the Lord and their functions. So Shukdev Goswami is now getting into the creation. And Parikshit Maharaj also asked for the creation, how he does the creation. So here, Shukdev Goswami is explaining and Prabhupada is explaining in his purport that at the time of annihilation, the whole material energy and all the living entities, they go inside the body of the Lord. And when at the creation time comes, they all come outside the material energy and the Tatastha Shakti or the living entities. So actually all the energies, because they're coming from the Supreme Lord, there is no difference. But the difference is in the matter of how these energies serve the Lord. All expanded energies have specific functions and display as designed by the Lord, and therefore they are simultaneously different from the Lord. So the energy, material energy, actually it's a different form of spiritual energy only because it's coming from Krishna or Maha-Vishnu. But it has a different function. And the living entities, they're also similar energies, but they're called Tatastha because sometimes they're in the spiritual energy and sometimes they're in the material energy, based on their desire. At the stage of non-manifestation, means at the stage of annihilation, the living energies remain potent in the Lord, and when they are let loose in the cosmic manifestation, they are exhibited differently in terms of different desires under the modes of nature. Such differential manifestations of the living energies are conditional states of the living entities. The liberated living entities, however, in the Sanatan eternal manifestation, are unconditionally surrendered souls, and therefore they are not subject to the conditions of creation and annihilation. So this creation takes place by the glance of the Lord from his bedstead of mystic lumber. And thus all the universes and the Lord of the universe, Brahma, are again and again manifested and annihilated. So the living entities who are in the material world, they are conditioned. They're conditioned by the different modes of nature. Why? Why they're conditioned? Because of the desire to lord it over just like the Supreme Lord. Because they cannot be like Krishna or Maha-Vishnu or Vishnu, so they come, then they get under the clutches of Maya. And Maya means three modes of material nature. Then they act under the three modes of nature. But the desire is to control, to be the enjoyer, to lord it over. So even under the modes of nature, they think they're controlled. The king of the jungle, tiger, thinks he is the king and he is controlling it. So there was an incident when a lion goes and meets an elephant, and he asks the elephant, "Who is the king of the jungle?" And somehow elephant was in a very bad mood that day. He grabbed the lion in his trunk and rolled him up and threw him far away. Of course, elephant is very, very powerful. So the lion, when he fell down far away, it really hurt him. And he was saying, "Oh, just because you don't know the answer, you don't have to get so angry." Means they think the tiger or the lion, he thinks he's the king of the jungle because he's strong and he's very agile and he's powerful or whatever. But it's all conditioning, nothing else. That soul in the body of the tiger thinks I'm the king of the jungle. The soul in the body of even the ant, in the ant, there is a queen ant and then there are rest of the ant. The queen ant thinks, I'm the king, I'm the queen, or I'm the controller of rest of the ants. And rest of the ants are working to serve. Oh, this is a queen, we have to bow down to her and we have to bring everything for her pleasure. So even in the ant, this tendency is there. So these tendencies, these are the desires that keep us bound up in the material world. And that's what Prabhupada is saying. In the Sanatana, eternal manifestation, or in the spiritual world, they're all unconditionally surrendered souls. And therefore, they are not subject to the conditions of creation and annihilation. The difference is in the spiritual world, they are unconditionally surrendered souls. Means even in the surrender, there is no condition. In our surrender, or so-called surrender, or we're trying to surrender, trying to follow, but we still put conditions. They're unconditionally surrendered souls. Very difficult position to achieve, obviously, because not everybody will be eligible to go back to the spiritual world. And therefore they are not subject. So they don't fall in the material world. Text 14. Adhidevam yathadhyatma adhibhutam iti prabhu athaikam paurusham viryam tridha vidatyat tachunu. Just hear from me how the potency of his lordship divides one into three, called the controlling entities, the controlling and controlled entities, and the material bodies, in the manner mentioned above. Text 15. Antasharira akasha purushasya vicheshtatah ojah saho balam jagye tatah prano mahanasuhu. From the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifesting Maha-Vishnu, sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the total living force. So from the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifesting Maha-Vishnu comes the sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength. Anuprananti yam prana pranantam sarvajantushu apanantam apananti naradevam ivanagaha. As the followers of a king follow their lord, similarly, when the total energy is in motion, all other living entities move, and when the total energy stops endeavoring, all other living entities stop sensual activities. So when the total energy is in motion, all other living entities move. just like all the followers of a king follow the Lord. Means all the energies follow the dictates of the of Maha-Vishnu, the Supreme Lord Maha-Vishnu. The individual living entities are completely dependent on the total energy of the Supreme Purusha. No one has independent existence, just as no electric lamp has independent effulgence. Each and every electrical instrument depends fully on the total powerhouse. The total powerhouse depends on the reservoir of water for generating electricity. Water depends on the clouds depend on the sun depends on creation, and the creation depends on the movement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. Very nice example. Of course, this is where hydroelectric power, Prabhupada is mentioning, that in a simple bulb, there's a power to generate effulgence or the light, but that power is dependent on the electricity. Electricity is dependent on the electricity coming from the powerhouse or the big powerhouse, right, where the dams are. And that power is dependent upon the water. If there is no water, there won't be any dams. And the water depends on the clouds. Clouds depend on the sun. Sun depends on creation. Sun depends on the creation which is created by the Lord. So it means everything is dependent on the Supreme Lord. And even if you think the power comes from nuclear reactor, so the nuclear reactor depends upon those radioactive substances. Radioactive materials are not made in a lab. They're made by Krishna himself. So ultimately, everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is completely independent, and we are interdependent. We are completely dependent. Pranena kshipata kshupta tridam tara jayate vibho pipasato jakshutascha pranamukham nir abhidyata. The living force being agitated by the Virat Purusha generated hunger and thirst, and when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened. So the sky or air, it generates the bodily strength and the mental force, and the living force being agitated by the Virat Purusha generated hunger and thirst. The process by which all living beings in the womb of the mother develop their sense organs and sense perceptions appear to follow the same principles in the case of the Virat Purusha, the sum total of all living entities. Therefore, the supreme cause of all generation is not impersonal or without desire. The desires for all kinds of sense perception and sense organs exist in the Supreme, and thus they take place in the individual persons. This desire is the nature of the Supreme Living Being, the Absolute Truth. Because he has the sum total of all mouths, the individual living entities have mouths. Similarly, with all of the senses and sense organs here the mouth is a symbolic representation of all sense organs, for the same principles apply to the others also. So, in the Virat Purusha, Prabhupada is saying, Shukdev Goswami is saying, generated when he desired to drink and eat, it generated hunger and thirst, and the mouth appeared, or the mouth opened. And Prabhupada is saying, same thing, exactly the same way the baby in the womb of the mother develops. So before mouth, first thing that develops is like in the previous verses where they said, from the sky situated in a transcendent body, sense energy, mental force, and bodily strength are generated. So the mental force, sense energy, they all generate in the body of a child also. And then appears the mouth. And then obviously other organs in the particular sequence that we'll study later, it appears. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. So I guess we can stop. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada.